the economic treason that takes place whenever a black man, especially an educated black man, an economically comfortable black man, decides to abandon the black woman for a white woman, he takes with him not only his heart, but he takes his savings, he takes his education, he takes his financial opportunities, he takes his checkbook with him. Let us be honest that marriage at its very foundation is a financial relationship. Anyone who doesn't believe that only need go to divorce court and see how many people are arguing over the love that they gave the other person during the marriage. In divorce court, love is never a focus. You're focusing on assets. You're focusing on savings. You're focusing on retirement. And the black woman and the black community loses out on all of that whenever a black man decides to seek a white woman's hand in marriage. You're taking from a people who don't have enough, and you're taking it to another people who have already stolen so much. And what makes it even more insulting is the opportunities that put you in that economic position to be able to get married and take care of a family came from black people who died, who suffered, who struggled, who sacrificed for us to be in this position today. And for me to take my education and my income over to the white woman when there's so many black women who need it cannot be interpreted as anything other than economic betrayal.
Hi everyone, so we're back for another video, and let me preface this because I know how this internet thing works. I know how this works, and I want to make sure my words are clear. Date who you want to date, love who you want to love, do what you want to do. Who you decide to date, love, marry is ultimately your decision. And to save you from tussling with yourself about this video and projecting, okay, because we still gonna get into these topics anyway, please let's not try to misinterpret what is being said. Now, I had to stop regular scheduled programming because I watched the 2024 NFL draft this week, and I've been wanting to do this topic for a while, but after seeing this year's draft, this needed to be bumped up the docket for sure for the gems to get out. And I'm gonna get straight to the point. In Cape, I touched on some of this briefly. There is a significant wealth gap between black and white communities. And I don't need to tell you the origin of this. We all know it. However, what we just witnessed in this year's NFL draft, as every year, is no surprise, but very telling. So many rookies are often called by team owners and coaches to announce that they have been officially picked. And what makes these calls so special is because these players are able to share in this televised moment with their parents, closest friends, girlfriends, and family members. And for the last few years, because these calls have been televised, a spotlight has been placed on a recurrent theme of many of these players being with white women.
So who decided on the outfit?
I did. She has on a lovely, shout out to Chrome Heart for both of our suits.
Thank you.
Lori and Rich, but yeah, she has on a Chrome Hearts dress. Jeez. And it looks lovely. A couple accessories on her wrist, and some nice heels, and then I'm also Chrome Heart. And I went silver to match, and we all kind of match in those ways as little accents. But yeah, I went navy blue with silver, and yeah, looks great. I had the idea in my mind of what I wanted, then I put the idea and Lori, and there's mine, and they came out with this, and then I let my mom do her thing.
This year's #1 pick for the first round, Caleb Saquon Williams and his family were invited to Detroit for him to officially accept his role as the newest player to join the Chicago Bears. The 2022 Heisman Trophy winner and former Southern California quarterback was one of the top earners in college football thanks to NIL deals from companies such as Dr. Pepper, Wendy's, Beats by Dre, and PlayStation. Those deals resulted in Caleb earning around $10 million during his time with the Trojans before he even played his first NFL game. Already $10 million up, and as a part of his contract with the Chicago Bears, he will receive a $25 million signing bonus and an additional $38 million over the next 4 years with a 5th-year team option. The #1 draft pick, Caleb Williams, a 22-year-old black man born in Washington, D.C., to a black mother and black father in a city which ranks #4 of the largest population of black folks in the United States, a city of black women of all complexions, sizes, backgrounds, and classes attended the NFL draft with his Danish girlfriend, Alina Thurgood. And if this was an isolated incident, we wouldn't even have had this conversation. However, black men have been doing this since racial barriers were lifted from professional sports. Now, the majority of black people have always stayed in close community with one another due to redlining. In the early 1930s, the federal government created redlining maps for almost every major city in response to the housing shortage. Redlining was primarily designed to provide housing to middle and upper class white families. African Americans and other people of color were left out of the new suburban communities and instead pushed into urban housing projects. And the justification was that if blacks bought homes in these suburbs, the property value of the homes would drastically decline. No one would want to move into these communities, therefore these home loans would be at risk, which is why the majority of housing projects in major cities are almost always grouped in close proximity to one another and near their respective downtown. Black families had two options. Number one, a housing project, or number two, if you had enough money, you could buy a home within the red line. Anything outside of the red line was a no-go, and realtors could not sell a home to you outside of this area. It wasn't until gentrification that suburban white folks decided that the commute an hour or so away to go downtown to work these corporate jobs or watch their favorite home sports team was too taxing and not efficient enough, and they wanted to move back into the inner city, which is now causing many black people who once settled into these different communities in the inner city to be priced out. Gentrification 101. And the reason why all of this is important is because the red line is one of the reasons that black people have always lived amongst each other. And while it is overly obvious that black people have grown up in all types of neighborhoods, the majority of the time, the person that you go to church with, stay next to, go to school with, will look exactly like you. Now, with this visual in place, tell me the last time you've seen an educated or suburban white woman walking down the block with her low-income African-American boyfriend within the red line. But as soon as these same men touch success, touch notoriety, touch wealth, whether that's an engineer at Google making $350,000 a year or an NFL player signing his rookie contract for $38 million. And as much as they try to push this rhetoric that black women are gold diggers and that they only want men once they achieve success, show me a collective of white women who are staying down in the paint. These suburban bunnies come out of the woodwork searching for carrots just like anyone else, literally and figuratively. They are not volunteering for struggle love on Slauson Avenue in LA, the Pork and Bean Projects in Miami, Bankhead in Atlanta, Georgia, and Brownsville in Brooklyn. Please show me the droves of suburban white women that cannot wait to settle down with Dusties or live a comfortable life with an average black man. Come get these Dusties too. You know, don't leave them behind. Round them up as well. Round up the Dusties that society says black women should settle for and help us out on that end. We would love for y'all to be the cleanup women within the red line, not just with our talented 10th. You see, the high grossing actor, the Google engineer, and that NFL player are considered to be the cream of the crop. And as W.E.B. Du Bois coined it, they are the talented 10th. Together, these guys economically possess so much financial power that could uplift and create jobs and, more importantly, generational wealth for a good amount of the African American community that is already in financial turmoil. And here's the thing, you know, it's not on the bunnies, okay? The responsibility lies in the hands of the black men, the leaders that they say they are, the ones that do the proposing, that do that thing where they get down on their knee and ask for a woman's hand in marriage. Patrick Mahomes had to watch his black father do it. So now he's doing it and is funneling all of his earnings by way of marriage to his wife, Brittany Mahomes, and her family as a byproduct. Now, if Patrick were to pass, his wife is legally entitled to his money and all earnings from his estate, which means that this adds more wealth into the white community that the black community desperately needs. Generational wealth is how we close the wealth gap. I could care less about y'all talking about who's hating. I I could care less about being focused on who loves who. If a black man genuinely and unbiasedly found love with a white woman, that is his choice. But since I'm not Boo Boo the Fool, I want to make sure the same community that has been screaming for the last few years about black women only chasing a check to get in here and look at this. And as I stated earlier, I'm looking at the bigger picture here. I'm looking at the fish that needs to be fried. Black men are coming into financial windfalls of millions and billions, money that is being fleeced into non-black communities due to proximity, brainwashing, colorism, and wanting to compete with white men. The 1%, the few that we got, the talented 10th of black men are the new NFL, and they are drafting non-black communities, signing them up for the best contracts and bonuses off the backs of our ancestors who fought for them to get their foot in the door in the first place. And I'm gonna go ahead and stop y'all before we get into this lie of there is not any black women that are viable options. Please stop the cap. Okay, we all know, I know, you know, plenty of good, eligible black women in real life that if just the right man comes along to settle down and handle business, all will be well. Women in this community, women that I talk to on a daily basis on Instagram, Discord, TikTok, YouTube. And also, before we get into the tit for tat of why can't black men do it, black women do it too. Men are the pillars of wealth within the confines of their household and within their communities. So in this situation, the question would be, why do black men not value the women within their own communities enough to marry them in droves and to provide them with provision, protection, and financial security? Another example of this is Charles Barkley married a white woman and had a daughter. And after he and his wife passes, his daughter will receive a large sum of his $70 million net worth. And if his daughter was to pass prior to her husband, this money would be funneled into the white community by way of her marriage. You know, one of the reasons I wish sports programs at HBCUs were more prevalent is for us as a community to be able to witness proximity. And I know it's a lot of complaints about HBCUs being underfunded and overcharging for tuition expenses while offering the least. But these schools are so underfunded and lacking donations that most of the time they cannot compete with the packages that these players are receiving when they go to these PWIs. Imagine if all of the top high school prospects only decided to go to HBCUs. Where do you think that the ESPN cameras would be set up? Where do you think these sponsors, grants, and limelight would be going? But instead, the majority of these players end up in places like Notre Dame, Penn State, UGA, Alabama, Colorado. If a top prospect went to an HBCU, there would be a much higher chance of him meeting a black woman on campus like many of these other players are already doing. Let me give you an example as to what I mean by proximity. Many players are starting from communities within the red line, and then they're leaving and going to PWIs in predominantly white areas. Mr. Antonio Tavares Brown, aka AB, aka Mr. CTESPN, is a well-known bunny bandit. Okay, he was born in Miami, Florida, and went to Miami Norland High School in Miami Gardens. The high school he went to has a population of 95% black people, 4% Hispanic, and 1% non-white Hispanic. He went to a college and played at Central Michigan University, which was 5% black. This is proximity. And the irony of all of this is that the black dads who shuffled these guys around with 3 or 4 of their friends to get them all to football practice, that black PE teacher in his high school, his black mother, his black father, his sister, auntie, and cousins, that elderly neighbor that had a special affinity for him, the Pop Warner coaches, his black pastor, they were the ones that were shooting in the gym. Nick Saban might have recruited him, but he didn't create who he became for 18 years in order to get him to that point. Now, ladies, don't get it twisted, okay? Do not get it twisted. We are not begging for a black man who essentially wants to be and build with a white woman, okay? The whole point of many of my videos surrounding people in general is that they are going to do what they want to do. It's nothing that we can do about it. The only thing that we have control over is ourselves. Okay, we're not thirsty and down bad, begging for black men to look our way. Now, if he wants to leave his million and billion-dollar pockets on our tables before he frolics to the bunnies in suburbia, great. We'll take some of that soft life, some of that leisure, and some paid bills. But we're not stressing about why they do not want black women, why they are not with black women, why they're choosing to marry white women. Let them do them. Okay, because they're going to do what they want to do regardless. And focus on pouring into yourself in the meantime for the right man, whoever that might be, who is worthy of you and who will eventually come along. Until next time.